I call to order the March 10th, 2014 Latrobe City Council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we'd like to have a moment of silence to relax, give thanks, or ask for guidance. Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Buck.
Mr. Giovanangelo. Mrs. Smith. Present. Mrs. Caldwell-Cravener.
Here.
Mr. Scapora.
Here.
Mr. Baldneri.
Here.
Ms. Vesey.
Here.
Mayor Wolfen.
Here.
6 present.
At this time, I have approval of the minutes from the February 10th, 2014 meeting.
Madam Mayor, I move the minutes of the February 10th, 2014 meeting be approved and accepted and be permitted to remain on the Secretary's desk where they will be available for reading and inspection to anyone.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. May I have approval of the fiscal department reports and bills for the month of February 2014?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Any discussion or question on the bills?
I do.
Yes.
Are any of these outside the budget?
There's a number that you might want to be concerned about. You, I believe, get the actual expenses and encumbrance report for the budget. Starting under general government professional services, we have, unfortunately, due to some personnel issues, have racked up significant legal bills, which have stretched that budget line item.
Alex, can you give us the line item number?
Yes, under general government, that would be 01-400 310, or just 310 if you're looking down.
Okay.
So about midway through. And to make it simple for you, you can notice the percentage left columns and the balance remaining columns to give you an idea. For example, we're about 16.67% through the year and about 83% left. So that kind of gives you an idea. But remember, for example, when you look through that, that's not always an accurate gauge. Sometimes office supplies get bought in mass. Sometimes insurance gets paid in one bill. So there's things. Another thing to be, I would say, an area that we have to track carefully, and it may just be because of a reimbursement, is under the police 410-301 miscellaneous expense. That one is also getting to be a point where, again, it may be a reimbursement, but I'm not exactly sure. And Barb and I were just talking. We need to clear that one up. Again, it may be a reimbursement. Other than that, again, a number of the areas, like, for example, police liability, 410-354, are simply because the premium was due and it got paid. Of course, we're over quite a bit on, not over budget, but stretching the budget related to SALT and highways overtime. And I got a note handed to me. The business cards were not budgeted for. Okay, yeah, and some of the repairs we made here to moving Joe Pacharka's office from where it's at to the crime unit. We did a flooring in there. It's about a 10 by 10 room. And so just to get that updated, again, that would fall under the municipal building expenses, which are the 409 category.
Any
You have a
other,
specific?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
thank you. Any other questions? All in favor of approving the fiscal department reports and bills and paid bills, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we have the citizens' requests, which are related to the items of the agenda. And again, at the end of the meeting, we can talk about anything else. But does anyone have anything they would like to address as it results to the agenda? Relates to the agenda, I should say. Please state your name and your address, and please limit your time to 3 to 5 minutes if possible. Thank you.
James Miller, 127 East 4th Avenue, Latrobe. Could somebody expound on the legal expenses that we've incurred, what they've been for, and what the problem is? And also, do we plan on making any amendments to the agenda this evening?
I don't anticipate any amendments to the agenda this evening, and I don't believe we are in a position to discuss that, the personnel matters in public forum. Mr. Kelly, am I correct?
That is correct. I think we could say that the legal costs incurred...
Microphone, please.
I'm sorry. That the costs incurred were due to various personnel issues. That's about as much as we could say at this point. I might add, they're not mine, they're extra counsel, special counsel, if you will.
Any other questions related to the items on the agenda? Committee reports. As I've said before, we don't have any committees, but I do have a list of committee reports. Can I appoint these committees now, or do I need to do that at the end of the meeting under unfinished business? Or does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'd like to establish the following 5 committees. Public Works, Jerry Baldineri and Madeline Smith. Public Safety, Julie Beasy and Jerry Baldineri. Community Development, Julie Beasy, Tricia Cravener, and Fabian Giovanangelo. Finance, Mike Scapora and Madeline Smith. And Personnel, Mike Scapora and Tricia Cravener. My suggestion would be, and you guys do what you want, but maybe schedule a meeting. I have had some residents contact me, and I forward those names to the respective committees that were interested in serving on the committees. I still encourage people, if they're interested in working with the council members on any one of these committees, to please give me a call at the city offices, and I'll forward your contact information to the appropriate committee. A question did come up as to whether or not you have to live in the city. Oops, excuse me. And the answer to that is no. I'm sure we have a lot of people that are used to live in the city and maybe live in Unity Township or Derry Township that still have an interest in the city. Anyone that's interested can serve on any of these committees along with our council members. And then starting next month, we'll have reports from the committees. Now, understanding that some committees, you know, the Finance Committee may not meet every month. Some committees may meet more often depending on what's going on. So there may be months where the committee doesn't have a report, but we'll at least have something from each committee every month. Any questions on the committees? Okay. I do think we've had some committees that have been working, even though they hadn't been established yet. Julie, you were working with the Police on the Neighborhood Watch. Do you have any update on that as part of the Public Safety Committee?
I believe there was an article in the Greensburg paper next to you about, okay, I didn't see it, but yeah, we're going to move forward on advertising for people in the various zones to serve as neighborhood watch representatives, I guess would be a good word. And it would be open to the public, so anybody who is interested in serving as that, we would have a meeting to establish kind of ground rules. what your responsibilities are and are not, and we'll move forward in that manner. So, you know, after tonight's meeting, I think we'll move forward rather quickly and get it going. It'll be a good thing.
Anyone else from any of the other committees have anything they'd like to add about anything?
Personnel Committee met last week to discuss a few items, and some of the matters that were talked about earlier where we have some expense in legal counsel. Another one is to work on developing a replacement for one of our staff members who retired, and working on a way that we can work that into our budget and how we're going to advertise for the position, and until the position is filled, and how we're going to work on that. And Alex, if you have any other additional information to report on that, but it's a work in progress on that right now. We have we're working with P.A. Curling to advertise a position for meter attendant, and I don't know if that's what we're calling it, but that's what the retiring staff members call it. So it's not developed yet, so we're working toward that.
Meter enforcement still taking place.
Yes, meter enforcement is still taking place.
Yes, I said we developed a plan to take care of that in the meantime.
We don't want to spread any rumors.
Yeah, right. We don't want to spread any rumors if we're not. And we developed a plan to take care of that position while we fill it.
Board and authority reports. I don't think we have any tonight. Department reports. Joe, are you here?
Public Works, we're going to try and do something a little different than we haven't done in the last 3 or 4 months. We're not going to solve. Instead, we're going to go out there. We started about the middle of last week patching potholes. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and again today. A couple more days, and we will be through the streets. After the streets, then we'll start addressing some potholes in the alleys and try to get them in some sort of good condition compared to what happened to them over the winter. After that, then we're going to try and start cleaning up the town, get rid of the winter dirt and debris and mess. So it's going to be pothole patching on the streets, then into the alleys, and then we're going to start cleaning our streets and that. If you come across a pothole that hasn't been gotten within the next couple of days, please call the transfer station, 724-537-8974, and report that pothole, and we'll get to it. Thank you.
Chief Bumar?
On February 13th, 2014, our department hosted a Westmoreland County Drug Task Force Roundup. 8 departments and 35 officers participated. We served 21 arrest warrants as a result of drug charges. The charges were a result of 4 months of investigation and controlled buys. 12 of the 21 warrants were residents of the city or from drug buys made in the city. The August 23rd, 2013 Citizens Bank robbery, it has been solved as a result of a cooperative effort, investigation with the FBI and Latrobe Police Department. 2 male actors are in custody in the Allegheny County. The 2 male actors were involved in multiple bank robberies in Allegheny and Westmoreland County. Further information on these robberies and the actors will be released as soon as the federal attorney decides how he wants to prosecute within separate jurisdictions or federally prosecute all the robberies at one time. In the past couple of years, we've had a drug take-back program at local pharmacies, usually 2 a year. The police department now has a permanent drug take-back box. Drugs may be turned into the box during business hours. The take-back box is in the police lobby area. A little bit how this works. People bring the drugs into the lobby, put them in the take-back box, which is secure and locked. These drugs, when it fills up, are inventoried and placed into evidence until a court order is obtained by our department, and our department, along with the county, destroy the drugs. This program is very beneficial to take prescription drugs off the street, because a lot of times people who pass away or prescription drugs that are not used anymore wind up out on the street and are sold. So this is a great program. It also is very important that drugs are disposed of properly, because a lot of people used to put drugs down the sink or flush them down the toilet, and some of the drugs are not cured by the water purification, so they get back into the water and cause harmful chemical effects. So that's a very good program that's available to anyone who wants to turn drugs in. Also on Saturday night, Latrobe Police Canine Rocky and Handler Officer Robert Dirk received the American Legion Civic Award. This award was received by Officer Dirk at a banquet held Saturday night at post 515. I was honored to be in attendance at that banquet and honored by the award that Bob and Rocky received. The K-9 unit remains at no cost to the city and is also an invaluable resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations to you and those officers involved in the drug roundup. I also had the privilege of attending the American Legion banquet on Saturday night to represent the city, and it was great to see Rocky and Officer Dirk get that award. Anybody have any questions for Jim? Fire Chief, not here. Ann, anything for code enforcement?
I had no report this month.
Okay, we'll move on to the agenda items. Mr. Kelly.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the first item appears under Administration and Finance Department. It is a motion only. Motion reads, I move we authorize the solicitor to prepare and advertise an ordinance approving a new multi-year franchise agreement with Comcast Cable. That would be prepared and advertised for the April meeting.
Mr. Graziani, I believe, emailed that to all of us. Do I have a motion to authorize the solicitor to advertise the ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Melody.
Any questions or discussions?
I have a question. Under Section 4, it says Section 7.1, free services to community facilities. Where is the cable plant? It says Comcast will provide free installation for facilities located within 125 feet aerial distance from the cable plant.
That is inaccurate for us. That just must be language that they've had, from.
Does that mean
Their plant in,
No, it would, be somewhere else located in the city.
so we'll be responsible to
pay for?
The way it works is the city is able to get cable, and they offer cable free to libraries and the schools. However, the library gets its cable through the county association, and they have a business connection, which Comcast isn't looking to provide a T1 service. In the same way, the school district, like LES, would be eligible. However, again, the school district requires a connection that Comcast isn't able to provide. But they do not provide for any other city buildings, the free, if you will, cable. But we're trying to find ways to negotiate with them, some cost reductions for example, for the fire companies. Right now, there's a Verizon dial-up to firehouses, which isn't acceptable. It's just slow. It's cheap, but it's slow. And we're looking to see if we can get a better cable arrangement that would give them better internet service.
Any other questions? I think this is a motion, huh? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item is also a simple motion. It reads, I move we authorize the city manager to seek a request for qualifications for an energy services company, and I will let the city manager answer questions on that one.
Do I have a motion to authorize the city manager to
So
seek
moved.
request? Second, please.
I'll second that.
Questions, please?
Alex, we talked about this at our preparation agenda session, but not everyone was there. Can you elaborate a little bit about this ESCO or engineering?
ESCOs are authorized by state statute to allow for municipalities to engage with an energy savings corporation with the idea of long-term capital projects that could occur from a 10 to 15 to 20-year period. And as I said to the council at the agenda prep session, by doing the request for qualifications, council will have an opportunity to select among a group of consultants, one that they would like to move forward with. They will do an initial study to see if there's a potential project, which will be another decision point for council. If council goes forward, there will be an investment grade audit. And the investment grade audit would create another decision point for council, at which you'll decide either to do a project, for example, replacing the chiller at this building with funds that would be basically accrued to the city from the savings that you would get from having higher efficiency appliances that run the building. And again, at that point, council could decide to do and follow the investment grade audit and do the project, or they could decide to not to. If at that point council decides not to move forward, there would be a cost transaction to the city to reimburse the firm for the reference. But that's whole another step away. So you'll have a step to approve a firm to work with. They'll see if there's opportunity to move forward. Then you'll have another step to decide to do the investment grade audit. And the risk you run at that point is if the investment grade audit is something you don't want to do as far as the project that it results in, you may have to pay for that investment grade audit.
So the cost for the first step is
Zero.
and once we get through that first step and we're going to look at a group of energy saving companies, we're going to be presented with some, and then we have a decision to make after we look at them. But to get them to come in and present to us, the cost for this is
Zero. Again, the difference in the companies that I found is that some focus on purely energy-related appliances or capital projects and the savings net. While other companies not only look at that, but some of them will look at O&M as it relates to how service delivery occurs. And if there can be savings from those, that increment of savings that the community has can be leveraged over up to, I would say, 20 years to finance a capital improvement project.
So, in other words, correct me if I'm wrong how I think about this. If we get to that step and we pick an energy service company that says, we think if you put a more efficient heating cooling unit in this building, that in the life of that unit over 20 years, you'll save $40,000 in electric bills. We'll use that $40,000 to bankroll the cost of the unit. We don't see the savings for those 20 years, but we don't have to pay for that unit for those 20 years. Is that how that would work basically, or not?
The way the legislation was created was these agreements really hold accountable the firms that you work for. So if the savings don't pan out, they're on the hook to make up for the difference.
But there's no initial outlay of cash. If they tell us that their plan is it's going to save us, and I'm just using the number, $20,000, that's $20,000 equity that we have with them to purchase the upgrades needed.
That's a fair way to look at it, correct?
Thank you, Mike.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what I got out.
I think that clears it up. I think that's pretty simple.
I think what council's getting an opportunity to do is to move forward, and you'll have several points in which you can take a break, look at your options, and decide to move forward again.
How do they get paid?
Well, look, they're going to do an analysis that is going to not only take into account the savings necessary to finance the improvements, but as well.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next three items actually go together, 3, 4, and 5. We passed a resolution about 2 or 3 months ago requesting an extension of the Main Street program or funding for the final year. The Department of Community and Economic Development has basically said through Mr. Felice, we want it done a little differently by different language. So to that end, the first resolution that I will read repeals the resolution we passed a couple of months ago, and the next two resolutions set forth the language that DCED would like to see, both with regard to the final year payment under the revitalization program and seeking additional funding for an extra year for facade funding. Anyhow, the first resolution is repealing resolution number 2013-66, Main Street and Enterprise Zone Program. Now therefore be resolved, Section 1, that resolution number 2013-66, entitled Main Street and Enterprise Zone Program, being the same is hereby repealed. And then Section 2, that the mayor, city manager, city secretary, any other proper city officer are authorized and directed to take any and all action and sign any and all documents necessary to carry into effect this resolution resolved in council this date. The motion would be to adopt the resolution as read.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Buck?
This is resolution 2014-20. Ms. Beesey?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mrs. Caldwell-Cravner?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Baldneri?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
Vote is 6 yes.
I'm looking to make sure I have the right resolution, Madam Mayor, to go with the right motion. The next resolution to be read seeks additional funding for the facade program. It's entitled Seeking Funds from the New Communities Program for the Latrobe Community Revitalization Facade Improvement Program. Whereas pursuant to Resolution 2010-28, the city requested and obtained funding from the Department of Community and Economic Development, whereas the funds were obtained from the department for the establishment and operation of the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program, whereas the LCRP will soon approach its final year for funding by the department, whereas the city desires to expend existing funds and obtain additional funds from the department for continued implementation of the facade improvement program. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that the city hereby requests an extension of the existing contract between the city and the department through the New Communities Program for a period of 24 months ending June 30th, 2016. Section 2, that pursuant to the provisions of the cooperation agreement entered into between the city and the department, which would also be extended, the city and the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program and its supporting partners will assume the provision of the full local share of program costs. Section 3, pursuant to the provisions of the cooperation agreement, the city will reimburse the Commonwealth for the state share of any expenditures found by the department to be ineligible. Section 4, that the mayor, city manager, or his designee, city secretary, and or any other proper city officer are authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect the within resolution, including the filing of a proposal to obtain the above described request and additional funds. In Section 5, the city secretary is directed to execute a certificate attesting to the adoption of this resolution and furnish a copy to the department or any other proper agency requesting the same resolved. In council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Buck?
This is resolution 2014-21. Ms. Beesey?
Yes.
Mr. Baldneri?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mrs. Caldwell-Cravener?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
That is 6 yes.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next resolution is also, it's the last one of this trilogy. The title is Seeking Final Year Funding from the Keystone Communities Program for the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program, and whereas the city desires to obtain funds from the department in the amount of $60,000 for the operation of the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program, which said amount will be the final funding of the program by the department. Now therefore, be resolved, Section 1, that the city hereby requests final year operation funding from the department for the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program in the amount of $60,000 through the Keystone Communities Program. Section 2, that pursuant to the provisions of a cooperation agreement entered into between the city and the department, the city and/or the Latrobe Community Revitalization Program and its supporting partners will assume the provision of the full local share of program costs. Section 3, that also pursuant to the provisions of the cooperation agreement entered into between the city and the department, the city will reimburse the Commonwealth for the state share of expenditures found by the department to be ineligible. Section 4, that the mayor, city manager, or his designee, city secretary, and the other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect the within resolution, including filing of a proposal to obtain the above described funds. In Section 5, that the secretary is directed to execute a certificate attesting to the adoption of this resolution and to furnish a copy of the resolution to the department or any other proper agency requesting the same. Resolved in council this date, the motion would again be to adopt the resolution as outlined.
May I have a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
May I have a second, please?
I'll second
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Bob?
This is Resolution 2014-22. Mrs. Caldwell-Cravener?
it. Yes.
Ms. Beesey?
Yes.
Mrs. Smith? Yes. Mr. Baldneri?
Yes.
Mr. Scapora?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
That is 6 yes.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the next item falls under planning and development. It is a resolution. It's entitled Approving Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement and Memorandum of Understanding between the Westmoreland County Land Bank and the City of Latrobe. Whereas by ordinance 10-213, the Westmoreland County Commissioners created the Westmoreland County Land Bank in accordance with Act 153 of 2012, and whereas the Westmoreland County Land Bank hereinafter the land bank shall possess all powers and duties permitted to it under state law, except where expressly limited in the ordinance, and whereas the county found and declared there is a need for a land bank to function within the territorial limits of Westmoreland County, and whereas the City of Latrobe desires to participate with the county in the land bank program according to the provisions of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the county and the city. Attached here to is Exhibit Number 1 with Exhibits A, the Westmoreland County Ordinance creating the land bank, and Exhibit B, the proposed intergovernmental cooperation agreement to be entered into, attached thereto. Now therefore be it resolved, Section 1, that the Council of the City of Latrobe hereby approves and authorizes entering into an intergovernmental cooperation agreement and memorandum of understanding with the County of Westmoreland. Attached here to is Exhibit Number 1. Section 2, the mayor, city manager, or his designee, city secretary, and any other proper city officer are hereby authorized and directed to sign any and all documents and take any and all action necessary to carry into effect the within resolution and the intergovernmental cooperation agreement approved and adopted herein. Resolved in council this date, the motion would be to adopt the resolution as outlined.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
This is another item that we discussed during the agenda session, but Alex, would you explain it? I was going to have him explain it first, but would you explain to the public what the land bank is and how it serves us?
I think in simplest terms, it's good to understand the purpose of the land bank is to handle or to deal with properties that we would call nuisance or problem properties. These are properties that not only have the property owners stop paying taxes, and in many cases abandon the properties. Most cases have. But we actually babysit these properties. There's a property on Ligonier Street that we have been cutting grass for a number of years. Now what we do is we try to do that to keep the whole neighborhood from looking as bad as it could with these abandoned and blighted properties. And we basically file a lien against that property. So they owe us taxes, now they owe us money for the grass cutting. This particular property I'm thinking of on Ligonier, we've actually had to remove the front porch from the property because of its safety concerns. And so in order to really be able to address these, we need, quite frankly, demolition money, or in some cases, rehab money to fix these up, with the end result of getting them back on the tax rolls to be productive properties within the community. And my thinking, when I'm looking back at the big picture, is simply the communities that enter into this program and learn to play nice with the county will be those communities for which the funding for demolition and other programs will funnel towards. So we can bemoan the fact that we have these properties and there's not enough demolition money to go around and those kinds of things, but without tools like this, or not availing ourselves of opportunities like this, we'll find ourselves on the outside looking in while other communities take advantage of the program and, quite frankly, are at the head of the line getting their blighted properties dealt with. But Mike, I know you had a specific question, and if you'd like, I'll try to address it.
Is the land bank's goal to return this property to the tax rolls? So when they're looking for a potential buyer or a potential suitor for this land, they're looking to return it to the tax rolls, and that's their interest, is that right?
Yes, we can set conditions of the sale that'd be that would exclude, for example, a nonprofit. But as you can imagine, each property is going to present unique opportunities. Some may get split between the landowners. Some, that is, if the building was removed, right? Two adjoining homeowners might split a lot because the lot's too narrow and it's not marketable. Another example might be a home rehab. Another example might be some commercial opportunity. Mainly for us, to residential. If you've read in the paper, for example, the city of Menneson has upwards to 200 delinquent properties and problem properties. For us, it's more like in the single digits, and it isn't that big a problem. And that's why we're an ideal candidate to take advantage of the program. Again, there's so much limits on funding. It's important for us to kind of do these things so that we can, take advantage of them.
I might add, Mr. Scapora, we could go out and buy some of these properties up, but then when we bid them out, we are required to take the low bidder, whether we like the use that low bidder may put the property to. The land bank is not under those constraints. It buys the property, and if the person who wants to buy it wants to have a use that is not acceptable, they don't have to sell it to them. So there's a benefit to that as well.
And the goal here is to get them back onto the tax rolls, and by using this land bank, we're more assured of getting it than not using it.
And having some say in how it's turned around.
The private sector could have picked up these properties at any time. From time to time they will, and unfortunately they seem to get worse for the wear because they get sometimes acquired by somebody who really doesn't have the assets to do that. But let's say, for example, as Jim said, we were able to, with the land bank, acquire the property and clear it. Now it becomes really attractive, I think, the private sector to go in there and make money off the property, be that through building an apartment, a duplex or something, or even a single-family home and renting it or outright selling it. So that's the upside. You want to create good housing opportunities, but it's like cancer. Each of these properties represent cancer in the blocks that they're in. And who wants to live next to an abandoned property? And quite frankly, I don't think the taxpayers should have to babysit these properties like we have for years, just always cutting their grass and taking care of them while these folks or these properties just languish out there.
So is that $5,000 like a fee to get into it? Or?
Pretty much it's an entry fee. There's been quite a bit of money that the commissioners have spent on legal and getting it set up. Basically, they're using the staff of the Redevelopment Authority of Westmoreland County to operate it, but it will have its own solicitor and its own board of directors as well. And by having it, and again, having communities like ours be a part of it, they'll be seeking other federal and state funds moving along. But back to the sale point, the point of sale creates money for future acquisitions. So if we're successful in Latrobe, our goals will be to keep those sale proceeds in Latrobe to acquire property 2, 3, and 4, for example.
Any other questions? Ms. Buck?
This is resolution 2014-23. Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Baldnery?
Yes.
Ms. Beesey?
Yes.
Mrs. Caldwell Cravener?
Yes.
Mr. Skopora?
Yes.
Mayor Wolford?
Yes.
Vote of 6 yes.
That concludes the items on the agenda. Do we have any unfinished business the council would like to bring up at this time? Alex, do you have anything? Under new business, any new business that we want to discuss?
We'll do that now. Now let's do the citizen. We'll do that after this.
At this time, we have a citizen's request open forum. If anyone would like to speak about any issue they have concerning them, please go to the microphone. We should call this the Jim Miller Hour.
Thank you. I have a few items. First of all, we had the two arsons in Latrobe. Those two properties, they were, I believe, purchased by non-profit organizations, or are we receiving, the question is, are we receiving any tax revenue from those two properties at the present time?
If you're referring to the two properties that had fires in April, one on Main Street up near Truman, I believe at 509 Main Street, and the property at 901 Ligonier Street, are those the two properties you're referring to?
That's correct.
The one on Truman remains in possession of the landowner, and it is paying taxes at a reduced rate. Once fires happen and the buildings are removed, taxes go down because there's no building to tax. At 901 Ligonier, that was acquired, and again, taxes are being paid on the land. It was not acquired by a nonprofit. It was acquired by a private individual. A private individual, by the way, who's invested quite a bit of money in the downtown and pays taxes on those properties as well.
Thank you. Second of all, we have an $8,000, almost an $8,000 payment to Piper Landscaping. What was that for, and was it more cost efficient to have a landscaping company do something rather than our own employees?
Mr. Miller, I don't know if you were at I believe the November meeting where we discussed Barclay and the contract we were having for snow removal. I don't know how many years it goes back, but it's been a tradition here in the city to outsource a number of duties related to snow removal, particularly the parking lots in here at City Hall. Barclay was the low bidder. However, on the first day that there was a snowfall, Tuesday before Thanksgiving, they were a no-show. In other words, they didn't show up at all with any equipment for any of our snow removal needs. And in a pinch, we used Piper Lawn Care. Now, Piper has had a contract with the city for a couple years for lawn care for the city properties, not only City Hall, but various other properties around town. Thankfully, they, I think, did a pretty big job and took it on as best they could, considering the circumstances. Nobody anticipated the kind of winter that we would have had. Back to your question, right now the Public Works is down a person. Quite frankly, if truth be told, probably down 2 or 3 people. And that's just simply because over the years, we have not replaced critical positions, and we've allowed positions to go unfilled. But we are down 1 complete person. As was mentioned earlier, the overtime budget under labor for highways and public works is already on a trajectory to go over its budget due to the heavy snowfall and numerous snowfall events that we've had this year. So, not to say that Joe's guys can't move mountains. I don't think we would have been able to do all that we've been able to do without the services of Piper Lawn Care. But it's something that we do take a look at from time to time. I mean, sometimes you look at doing it in-house as opposed to doing it out of house. So in that particular case, I think we did the best we could, huh, Joe?
Exactly. Thank you. I wasn't criticizing anything like that there, but I mean, I just wanted to know what it was for that there. Another thing, Comcast Tower was turned down by Union Township zoning at a $1,500 a month payment to the school district. Would the city maybe consider having the tower placed on maybe one of our buildings in the city of Latrobe?
Well, I can't comment on the zoning hearing board's decision in Unity Township. I can say yes. I've thought about that at the transfer station a number of times, and quite frankly, I was a bit jealous when I read that the school district had the agreement. So, the There may be an opportunity if Comcast or Verizon would like to do a tower. Certainly, we'd entertain that.
It's Verizon, isn't it? It's
Yes.
Verizon.
It is Verizon.
I'm sorry.
But if Verizon would like to do that at the transfer station, we'd be more than happy to discuss that with them.
Okay, we may want to contact them, to see what their position is. The last thing, Mr. Kelly was going to check. I know that I wanted to serve on some committees and that there, other than the zoning hearing board that I'm on. And Mr. Kelly was going to check with for any possible legal problems for any committees that I wouldn't be permitted to join because of a conflict of
Do you have any
interest.
in mind? It's easier if you tell me, yes, I'd be interested in these, then I can look those committees out.
Okay, I'll try
I'll
to figure it out and then let you know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other citizens' comments, concerns, questions? Alex has something he'd like to say, and then we have to go into executive session, so Alex.
Madam Mayor and Council, I'd like to take note of a young man who's in our presence this evening. He's a member of the Boy Scouts of America. His name is Clayton. He's with Troop 304. I believe he holds the rank of Scout. Am I correct, Clayton? You're the rank of Scout?
No, I'm second class.
Oh, you got to get the badge updated then.
Yeah, no.
Sorry about that. He's here fulfilling a requirement for merit badge citizenship in the community. And as all of you know, I'm sure, since 1911, the Boy Scouts of America have served our country well. And among the Eagle Scouts, there's been U.S. senators, members of the moon landing parties, and so many other things, Academy Awards, and some other folks who are pretty famous who are Eagle Scouts. Clayton, I expect you'll fulfill the 304 tradition and find yourself as an Eagle Scout someday as well. Thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, we're going to do the city manager's report next, and then I'll do my report, and then we'll go into executive session and come back for adjournment in case you folks don't want to wait around.
The city manager's report is as stands. It again, as always, will be made available online, and people can request copies if they need them. But basically, I have some items outlined for the April 14th agenda, and including that is an agreement with the Greater Latrobe School District in the city for a school safety resource officer. This is a project that I believe the council supports wholeheartedly. We're just working through some of the details of agreements that we would have. Earlier tonight, you passed an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with the county commissioners and the county's land bank. In the same way, you'll have an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Greater Latrobe School District for that officer. And again, I believe there's full support of that here. The reason it wasn't on tonight's agenda is we just haven't been able to get that agreement ready. But again, it is supported. We've already mentioned the personnel matters. And again, unfortunately, how much time those things require, and that's in my report as well. And we'll be looking at a number of items, including something that we budgeted for, and that's a new roll-off truck for sanitation. We're looking at the opportunity to lease or take out a loan for a new piece of equipment for that, for the roll-off truck for the sanitation. And other than that, just a bunch of other things that you might want to take note of. And I'm available if you have questions or interests, particularly as it relates to finance. Barb and I are available at any time to go over bills and to review with council any concerns.
Thank you, Alex. I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I encourage everyone again to please volunteer for one of these committees. If you call my number here at the city office, or you stop down at the offices and see Alex or one of the ladies and give them your name and phone number and what committee you'd like to serve on, we'll make sure that you're contacted when we have our meetings and once we get into a routine of those meetings. Again, I felt like a broken record all winter long, but I want to thank Joe Bush and his guys at the Public Works Department. Hopefully we're done salting, but I hate to say that because it still is March, so my guess is it'll probably be another time or two where you guys are out there. But again, congratulations to you and your staff and the planning. We did not run out of salt, and I think that's a testament to your good planning, Joe, as well as Alex's. And again, Chief Boomar, Congratulations to you on the drug roundup. We are fortunate to have the Westmoreland County Task Force and some of our officers that are so dedicated in that area. And we'll get these drugs off the street and we'll clean this town up. Alex and I are working on some things. We're looking at developing some projects that we want to try and seek funding for. So more on that will come. But we are looking at to the community for any ideas and suggestions, anything you want to see us do. We need to get out from under all of this chatter of, I don't know how to describe it, but it's distracting. It takes time away from doing the positive things that we need to do in the community. We need to work together as a community that's both inside and outside the city offices, and we're working towards that end. So with that being said, we're going to enter into an executive session. We will come back for adjournment, but I don't expect there will not be any other items to discuss. Thank you.